Welcome to the Grief Ladies, the practical guide to what comes next. I'm Kelly Daugherty.
And I'm Karyn Arnold, and we are two grief professionals with over 50 years of combined experience. We're here to validate, educate, and give you tangible tools you can actually use.
Each episode motivates you to take action and reminds you it's okay to want to feel better. This is the Grief Ladies, a guide to what comes next. Hi, and welcome back to the Grief Ladies podcast. This podcast is coming out on New Year's Eve. And so for today, we are continuing with our grief framework. And our next trail marker we're talking about is E, which is evolving. And evolving really comes down to dealing with some of the difficult emotions, what Karyn calls the roadblocks, which I love. And that could be the anger, the guilt, the jealousy, the fears. And so we are really going to be talking about it being New Year's and going into 2026 and how difficult that can be. And what I hear happen a lot of times around New Year's is my clients that have especially had a loss in that calendar year as they're moving into the new year, how difficult that can be. They feel like they're leaving their loved one behind. They're angry and resentful that they have to go into a new year without them. They're, jealous of the other people that are maybe celebrating, a new year, new you, and setting these New Year's resolutions, and a lot of grieving people not wanting to make that transition.
Yeah. So I think that's a big part of it. Kelly, we were talking a little bit before. I think one part of this, one aspect that's so important is the unexpected nature of how New Year's hits a person. Because I don't know about you, but this is what I hear a lot. By the time we're at New Year's, there's been Thanksgiving and Christmas, Hanukkah, the really big get together. And I will have people say to me all the time, New Year's, I'm not that worried about. We never did anything for New Year's. We are always in bed by 9:00. I mean, I hear that all the time. So people are really thinking more about the day itself and how triggering a day it is or isn't going to be. And because it's not this occasion where they did a lot or had this kind of, big celebratory. Now, listen, some people love New Year's. Maybe they did do things, but more often than not, when comparing it to the other holidays, they're kind of downplaying this one and thinking it's not going to be so bad. That tends to be the worst case for a grieving person. Not that you want to be walking around like bracing yourself and constantly anxious with a sense of dread. But I find when people aren't anticipating something to be hard, and then it's like twice as hard or 10 times as hard. So what we were talking about, Kelly, is the idea that New Year's is a lot of thoughts that come up. And I think it comes down to how time is perceived in grief. And also the idea that we are going into a year now that they are never going to see, which also speaks to secondary losses and the loss of future. And also those times where we are thinking about what they don't get to be a part of. We mourn for ourselves a lot, but then thinking about what we're mourning for them. So a lot with that. I mean, what of that do you encounter, Kelly, as
Yeah,
you're working with
all of
people?
that. I think it's all of that. It's, and even for the people that are a little further out in their grief, right? It is now another year without their loved one. And we do a lot of grief math, right? We, think about like how long it's been, how many days, how many this, how many that, that they've been gone. And I think that this is now just another way for us to do more grief math. Okay, this is now another year, or this is coming up on 2026 is this many years since my loved one died. And it's I think, like you said, it's this holiday that people don't always, it catches them off guard a little bit.
Yeah.
And they struggle with it. And I mean, for our listeners, Karyn and I both live in the Northeast. January is miserable. It's cold. It's dark. It's long. And so I think that also doesn't help the situation as well. For maybe some people that are living better temperature areas. They don't have that, but I think it compounds it for sure, especially with our clients that we see. And it's just, I think it's about how can we maybe look at this maybe as a time of reflection. Instead, maybe not resolutions, but more reflection. And just also being kind to yourself and kind of coming up with how can you maybe carry them with you into the new year. What does
Mhm.
that look like for you?
Yeah. The word that I really like, for a grieving person when it comes to New Year's is intentions.
Hmm.
And we're very used to the word resolutions. And let's face it, for most of our lives, it has to do with maybe our physical health. And I'm going to, get on that diet or start that exercise program. And a lot of it had to do with like self improvement. And there's things that just don't feel appropriate, when we're grieving, or maybe we just don't care. But it's not a bad time to be pausing and setting a few intentions and thinking, what are some things that I can do for myself in the coming year? I was talking to a woman yesterday, and she's going to be moving soon. And while she's been looking forward to the move after the loss of her husband, she was saying to me, she goes, but I have to be realistic that everything is coming with me. All the grief, all the pain, all the problems, it's all coming with me. None of that is going to change. And so I said to her, I said, well, maybe it doesn't have to be about what you'd be hoping to lose, but what does a move mean in terms of what you could gain? Are there connections that she's pretty isolated right now? Could you be moving to a place potentially where you have some neighbors or have a community, more connections, more opportunity to be participating in something that interests you? So maybe the new year can also be about adding, and setting an intention for things that I want to add rather than take away, is what
Yeah.
we kind of do, for things that could make this feel a little bit different for me this year in a way that I feel like I could find some peace perhaps.
Yeah, I like that. I think it's a good way to think about it, and that intentions. What is it? Where are you at, and where do you want to be? And as we're talking about these, roadblock emotions, and if you're finding that you're really struggling with some of those, maybe that is your intention to kind of find a way to process some of that and work through some of that. Um, I think some of those things, there are things we can do to help ourselves with some of those roadblock emotions for sure.
Yeah. And that's hard. I mean, they're roadblocks for a reason because they seem really big and they seem like something that's just going to always be there, but they do get in the way, and they do have a tendency to sort of keep us stuck. I think that's another thing maybe about resolutions or intentions, is that we're trying to maybe look at where our lives have been and think about how they could change, perhaps. And as a grieving person, we really have to think about what can't change. There are things that can't be changed or undone, and so we are instead looking at what we have to work with and what we can do with that. I mean, the roadblock emotions, the grief and the well, not the grief, but the guilt, I should say, and the anger, resentment, things like that, they're tough. They're usually pretty deeply rooted. Most of the time they started the day we lose our loved one, and it becomes this story on repeat that we're telling ourselves. So sometimes maybe even in the new year, that intention can be about being observant of that narrative, pushing back against it, challenging it a little bit, and maybe make this the year that we start to question the things we've been thinking and the stories we've been telling ourselves.
Are you ready to take the next step on your grief journey with real tools and compassionate guidance? The Grief Ladies are launching a brand new workshop series based on their signature grief GRIEF framework. 5 trail markers to help you find your footing after your loss: grounding, rebuilding, interacting, evolving, and finding. Each workshop focuses on one trail marker, guiding you through practical steps to move from surviving to living again, all in a space that's honest, supportive, and real. Led by grief experts Kelly Daugherty and Karyn Arnold, these workshops combine decades of experience with tools you can start using today. Visit griefladies.com to explore the upcoming workshops, because you don't have to climb this mountain alone.
Yeah, I like that. And I think one of the biggest roadblocks I see with my clients is fear.
Hmm.
and the fear of the future, the fear of the unknown, the fear of living life without them, that fear of who am I now, right? And even the fear of something happening to somebody else.
Yeah.
And the fear of, oh my gosh, I'm going into 2026 without them. How am I going to do it? What does this next year look like? And I do believe some of that has to come back to mindfulness, right? We want to predict the future. We want to predict that we know what 2026 is going to look like. Sometimes that doesn't happen. I mean, 2025 by 8:30 in the morning, something life changing happened to our family, and was not at all how I anticipated the new year starting. Um, and it's we can't always predict the future. We really can't ever predict the future. That's
Right.
the reality. And so I do think it is about bringing yourself back to the moment, being here now, and just taking it minute by minute, day by day. Because
Yeah.
if we try to put all this pressure, this is why I think resolutions fail, right? We have all these grand ideas of what we're going to do. I'm going to go to the gym, right? I'm going to lose 20 pounds. And the gym's packed on January 1st. And then you go in February 15th and it's back to its regulars, right? And it's because we put so much pressure on ourselves.
Yeah.
So I think if you can take that away, and maybe, take away some of that pressure of what you have to do or what you think is going to happen or what you need, and practice some more mindfulness and self-compassion.
Yeah, and as you're saying all of that, which is so true, about the pressure and everything else. There is pressure that comes with the New Year's because suddenly we're talking about a whole year. And that's scary.
Mhm.
It's sometimes people tell me that Sunday nights are hard for them in grief because then the whole week is stretching out in front of them and they're like, "Oh my gosh, how am I going to get through this week?" So, New Year's kind of creates this opportunity to think about a whole year now. And there's so much uncertainty in that for a grieving person. Like you said, a lot of fear with that uncertainty. So, maybe one of the things that we need to do with New Year's is to kind of like turn down the volume on the intensity of what a whole year is. I mean, in the end, December 31st to January 1st can pass like any other 24-hour period if we don't put the emphasis on it. If we want to use it as an opportunity to say, maybe this is, some people have some rituals, things that they like to do to kind of, connect, and that would be great. But if that's not already your thing, then maybe just also realizing let's maybe not put such an emphasis on the new year. Like it's a day like all the rest of the days that you're just trying to get through. And being focused in the present, putting your energy toward what you can and can't control right now is always going to serve you better than trying to plan too far ahead.
Yeah, definitely. And I think that's where it really does come down to, because you're right. It could be any other day. We
Mhm.
just have so much, we put so much pressure on ourselves and so much emphasis on that calendar being changed out, right, to the new year.
Yeah. Yeah. So, I mean, expectations is a big part of it. And also giving yourself permission to do it the way that you want to do it. I mean, at any one point with these occasions, and maybe New Year's allows this a little bit better since not for everybody, but again, for some people, this tends to be more of something that you celebrate with another person or two or something. It's not like your whole family necessarily. And again, maybe some people are, but maybe this is your chance to just say, you know what, just going to go to bed. I don't really want to be acknowledging too much, and I'm going to wake up January 1st. I'm just going to keep trying to get through the day as I've been. Sometimes we can try to manage that a little bit. I guess I would say just not to fall into the trap of making it any bigger than it has to be. If you can do that is important.
Yeah. Yeah. And also, you know, while other people may be around you and they find this day celebrating and getting together and having the toast to the new year and all of that, and so how would you tell somebody to maybe handle some of the resentments that they maybe have towards other people for wanting to celebrate?
Yeah, so like you're saying, if they are in a bigger celebration, well, yeah,
Yeah.
like you said, that's hard because that creates that greater contrast. And if we are choosing to be part of that celebration, then, anticipating that we're going to be seeing people maybe who are kissing at midnight or who are very joyous, um, it's not always an easy thing. And I try not to force any type of positivity, but those moments, I think we are always better served to find where we are connected to people. It would be very easy to be in a situation like that and to only highlight the differences. Here's how I'm different from everybody in this room right now. I lost this person and look at them. They haven't had the loss. And that's only gonna create a bigger wide and greater gap and a wider distance between us. So I think instead if in any time, whether it's New Year's or you're, I don't know, at any kind of work function or something, try and find those commonalities. What's connecting me with the people that are here? Oh, there's the person that I went to college with, or there's the one, our kids grew up together. Like, try to find your connections and how you're alike. I mean, grief really does, we recognize how it sets us apart, but then we can also become hyper focused on it. And that's only going to serve to make those moments harder.
Yeah. And I think for especially like widows, I talk a lot with, feeling like that third wheel or that fifth wheel or, you know, um, just not feeling like, like you said, everybody kissing at midnight and you're there standing by yourself and you don't have your spouse to
Yeah.
maybe kiss and how difficult that can be. So, I mean, I think also being mindful of that and maybe consider, do you want to be there or not?
Yeah. Well, that's what comes to mind for me. I mean, if you really could find yourself in a situation where you're feeling so much like the odd man out and it's going to overly emphasize what your current situation is, that may be a signal that that would be particularly difficult if it's your first year. Um, Most of the time, I don't know, I don't want to keep generalizing, but a lot of the times, we're going to be in situations and it may not only be couples. So, do you have a very close friend that you can spend time with, you two can hug at New Year's or something and say thank you to each other? Like, if you still really are saying to yourself, I want to be a part of it, but I know that moment's going to be hard, then maybe it's about planning for that moment and then the rest of the night can be okay. Or maybe that's when you go to the bathroom or step
Yeah,
outside or you just don't, or you go
exactly.
home right before the ball drops, you stay until
Exactly.
11 or something, you
Hmm.
know? So, I mean, just sometimes I guess I don't know, grieving makes us have to get a little creative with some things, which can be hard. But it doesn't mean you have to follow all the rules and do everything the way you've always done it.
Yeah,
That's
exactly.
definitely important.
Yeah. So I think again, so highlighting what we've kind of talked about, is just maybe looking at this like challenging some of the expectations for the new year, trying to practice some mindfulness and self-compassion, trying to let go of, the resolution and maybe setting more with an intention for the year. And so something you want to bring into your life. So for our listeners, what is our actionable step for this?
Well, truly, I mean, if you haven't already, I mean, obviously anybody who's listening is pursuing something in terms of their own grief support, but why not set an intention to get more grief support or to get more support in that way? I mean, we now have the Grief Ladies Facebook community. I mean, there's things that we're doing with our framework, lots of different programs and supports, that we're offering, and there's a lot out there. The more support, the better. A lot of times we're talking about feeling misunderstood, feeling isolated, feeling alone. I have people all the time that like, I feel like I'm going crazy. I feel like I'm doing this wrong. It's amazing how just even a little bit of interaction with people who understand or being in that sort of supportive space makes a huge difference. So while we were just saying like we don't have to overemphasize the new year, but it is also that time to like, why not? Make this a time to say, I'm going to, I haven't been giving my grief and myself enough time, and maybe it needs a little bit more. So maybe this could be setting that intention to do that.
Yeah, I love that. I think that's a great idea. And Karen's groups with Grief in Common are amazing. So, and they are virtual, so they're open to anyone around the world. So, there are opportunities for connection. And like Karen mentioned, also our Grief Ladies community on Facebook. It's a private Facebook group. So, feel free to join us over there. And, we hope that 2026 can be peaceful and gentle and calm for you. Thanks for joining us on the Grief Ladies.
Don't wait to feel better to get started. Getting started is what makes you feel better. Put this week's tool to work.
If today's episode helped, share it with someone who needs it and leave us a review. We'd love to hear from you.
And remember, we're here for you, your trusted grief ladies, navigating this path together.